welcome back to my channel. As you know, basically, since we're still in lockdown, I thought maybe since you may have some children with special needs or children on autism spectrum especially, basically, since hopefully this will be the last one, since this is going to be broken into two parts on like the ways how teachers and parents can motivate children on the autism spectrum. Basically, the very first one based on, I gave you some tips and suggestions on how you can do this as a parent or teacher if you've got a teacher on board that is in your home or what have you, and that it covered basically we need to figure out what the problem and source of extent to why the children is behaving in a certain way, basically of that situation, the environment they're in maybe could be causing as a contributing factor, or it could be a change of route and everything. As you know, basically many autistic children don't like change. As I mentioned in one of the videos I have shared about the change series of, you know, transitioning from maybe certain schools versus my experiences with it, which I'll link in the icon above me, in the description box below me, of the playlist of the Autism and Change series. If you want to see that, feel free to look into this. And another one is basically we got to bear in mind that we shouldn't have high expectations and hopes with children with different special needs, because I know that for a fact that many parents, you know, have high expectation and hopes of children to succeed, which is fine, don't get me wrong, but we need to bear in mind that some children, especially ones on the autism spectrum range, do tend to basically maybe be a slow learner or what have you, depending on their developmental and biological age level, because as we know, each autistic children, as they transition from children to teen to adult, they'll have certain challenges along the way in their everyday life, regardless what it may be it via through their communication, be it through their comprehension and learning, be it through anything else. As I shared before, that not all autistic children are the same, so bear in mind of that, as well as in saying this basically that it's important that maybe for me, as I shared in the last piece about executive functioning, how I work, I'll link in the icon above me and in the description box below me, but just to put it briefly, that kids that on the autism spectrum do suffer from executive functioning difficulties, so therefore some of us may work well like with some visuals versus, you know, to-do lists, checklists, or whatever it may be, to see what's needed and how you present yourself and asking us how to do the task at hand. There are ways to actually talk it out with the children basically on how to do set given tasks. But more of this of what I've shared will be in the first part, which I'll link in the icon as well as in the description box below if you want to know what I'm talking about here, so that you can gain a better understanding. So before I begin the second part of the last part for my autism related video for you guys today, is my name is Aspie. If you haven't known me already, I'm all about creating and educating you all based on autism and mental health, as well as in saying this, sharing my life stories with autism and mental health, along with other various things along the way, hopefully via through fun and games that you may have seen of me travelling with Father Lala and all this and more. So if you're into any of these, feel free to smash that subscribe button on the bottom right hand corner, and if you do decide to join me on the bandwagon as a YouTube family member, feel free to also turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos like these and more in the future. It'll be much appreciated. So as I said before, basically, like this one's going to be about 7 methods or what have you that can hopefully help motivate you and the autistic child on motivating them in a way to hopefully, you know, succeed in their everyday life challenges that they may feel, you know, because as we know, what we learn at an early age should hopefully stay intact once we get older to an adult or what have you, but then sometimes it gets lost and forgotten. But as I said before, basically the best approach to solving the problem, if there was any problem that arose, figure out what's causing the problem in the first place. As I said, as a classic example, is it the environmental setting they're sitting in? Is it basically like within that environmental setting there's a lot of, you know, busyness going on in the classroom, the loud noise, flickering of lights, sensory overload obviously will come into play with this, with the sensory meltdown. And saying this also, basically another one is a good place to start off with the assumption, as well as in the environmental setting, is if the child doesn't want to do something, there may be a given reason. We need to, question what that reason is. If they won't do the task at hand, it's because they maybe can't do the work, but figuring out why not, take some detective work for ourselves as teachers, parents, or people that are caring for autistic children, or babysitting them, or please ask yourself, based on this, if your expectations are meeting your child at their developmental age. Because as I said before, every autistic child will be learning at a different pace of their comprehension, understanding, and whatnot. So we need to get to grips with that. While the lack of motivation issue has nothing to do with the intelligence, again, remember this, the social emotional age of your bright autistic verbal autistic child or non-verbal autistic child can fall well behind the biological age by about 1/3. As I said before, there's not enough research to give the exact stats at this point in time though, but this lag is a common experience among most individuals with autism and is widely reported by parents and teachers alike. They may also just move much slower as they cycle through the everyday tasks that you're given them. This rule of thumb is that they may do half of the work in twice the amount of time given, even if, you as a special needs teacher, that one crucial thing is never yell at them. Basically, if they are actually going slower than the average Joe in class, be it if they're, writing down notes or what have you, because every children may learn differently. Some may be visual learners, some may be, kinesthetics, as in hand-in-hand kind of feel sensation versus everything else. I also understand this, after not yelling at them, you need to be patient with them and actually maybe in a way find a tool or method that you feel fit for that child to learn with you. So that's why I'm here today, to share at least maybe 7 methods or techniques that could come into play that may help an autistic child or even a child with special needs. Also, so this, it may look as if they aren't motivated to do a task, as I said before, that is given, but it's critical to understand what slower processing speed means before jumping to conclusions about intent. However, there are many ways teachers and parents can help kids on the autism spectrum these days to help them stay motivated both in the classroom and at home. So that's why I'm here today. So they are as follows. Number 1, beating activities. Arts and crafts, as we know, are really well thought out for us autistics. Some of us loves to do arts and crafts, as I said. Most of us likes to do sensory things. So some of us, or most of these, will be sensory-based kind of structural methods and techniques you can use to try and put into play for your child's learning motivational purposes. Structured step-by-step approach to creating better crafts helps to give the child a sense of control. As we know, some of us autistic people that I know of likes to be in control of certain things, but as we know, sometimes certain things can't be in control of everything nowadays, but we need to learn to let go of some of the things we can't control, if that makes sense. So in saying this though, the fine motor skills required to select, arrange and thread the beads will help them to develop strong hand-eye coordination, which can then in turn assist them in other areas such as writing and reading comprehension. Also, using bold, bright gemstone beads can create a visually stimulating sensory experience. If you want to incorporate this beading activity into your classroom lessons, use coloured alphabet beads to practice spelling or phonics. Beading can also be an effective transition task to calm agitated children on the spectrum when they're, in that state of mind, being, frantic and what have you. Number 2, ice painting. Combining STEM, which hopefully, if I haven't done this of a learning experience or what have you, I'll do some research on this so I can actually share with you all what this is and how it can actually help autistic children in one of my videos in a later date. So if you're wanting to know more, let me know and I'll do this for you guys. As well as I'm saying this, the art concepts into one autistic activity is an excellent way to spark interest and get them involved in a task that is educational and gives them some gentle sensory input. Art activities provide kids on the spectrum with an excellent outlet for creative expression, because as we know, many autistic and kids that are special needs do tend to have, creative expressions of interest by basically being that creative in that frame of mind. This is a particularly effective task for non-verbal kids who have trouble communicating needs and emotions. Number 3, sensory colleges. Often children on the spectrum have sensory processing issues, as I said before, that can make them disengage from specific activities. They feel to be over or understimulating, which I have talked about over in understimulations, which I'll link in the iCard as well as in the description box below. Sensory colleges, however, will provide them a safe, non-threatening way to ingest unfamiliar sensations and textures, and can easily then be incorporated into a variety of lessons to stick on basically. Using a range of natural and artificial textures such as tree bark, rice, aluminium, felt or cotton, and instructing your kids to cut or tear pieces of those materials stuck on the printed out templates that you may have made for them. If you have a child who is averse to messy activities, you must be sensitive to their comfort learning, or shall we say comfort level during the task. Provide a clear verbal or visual introduction for the task and begin by having them to try use utensils to apply glue and arrange the scraps on the paper to avoid contact with the glue. Number 4 is your sensory boxes. Sensory boxes are a great way to encourage communication on autistic kids, and it's also an effective way to increase their vocabulary. You can easily tailor contents of the boxes to suit the interests of kids or incorporate lesson content and concepts, making them an exceptional way to motivate the kids to learn. When creating sensory boxes, make sure you don't include articles that could be potentially dangerous for autistic kids. Seemingly innocuous items or small pieces can become choking hazards for kids that are at a young age who put things in their mouth. Work around this by creating a box with edible pieces if need be, or to a point that is age appropriate for that child. Number 5, slimy sensory play. Slime provides an interesting tactile experience for autistic kids and can be used in the classroom as a calm down item, and many more items that can be a calm down item. Like some like to stim on glittery, shiny things versus something smooth, something with their maybe fingers to keep them going, like those stimming toys that I see floating about. This can be used as a calm down item, as I said, to squeeze and pull while completing other tasks. Or you can customize the slime with topic related items to create an engaging teaching material. There are so many different textures of non-textured slime these days, which you can obviously create your own, from running cornstarch slime, great material for a science lesson on a Newtonian fluid, to be soft fluffy slime that is perfect for mess aversive kids such it doesn't stick to their hands or even surfaces. You can also make edible slime for kids who are likely to put items in their mouth. Just avoid the food colouring for kids sensitive to artificial colours though, as a heads up. Number 6 is your calming sensory bottle. There are occasions when kids on the spectrum can get so overwhelmed to the point it can be difficult to engage them in any task, as we know. There are many effective calm down techniques, as I said, that are available to teachers and parents, such as whole body pressure, self massage, or sitting in a designated quiet space. However, whole body calming strategies aren't often available to autistic kids in the classroom, but calming sensory bottles are an excellent alternative for children who need a distraction from whatever triggered their meltdown in the first place. The slow movement of the objects in the bottles acts as a visual anchor by drawing their focus into a place or single place to stop them from feeling out of control. This allows the kids to return to a state where they're no longer agitated and they are more likely to re-engage in the classroom task that's given. The bottles should be introduced first by an adult, and gradually the kids will learn to use them whenever they need to refocus, making these bottles an exceptional way to foster self-regulation in autistic kids. Last but not least is whole body learning. Proprioceptive and vestibular sensory input is just as essential as stimulating the other senses for encouraging learning. Incorporating activities into your lessons centered around these sensory experiences can be a wonderful way to motivate autistic kids to try new tasks, as many kids on the spectrum enjoy and benefit from movement throughout the day. Include whole body learning techniques into lessons or everyday routine by allowing the kids to use movement to explore some everyday concepts. Or you can tailor the classroom environment to allow movement during class. Another way that you can provide kids with movement opportunities with sensory breaks from traditional seated learning, such as providing fitness balls or small trampolines for them to use to decompress. Because as we know, basically on this front, when it comes down to it, with some kids, they like to stim, they like to do hand flapping, tapping on desks and whatnot, and as I said before, in stimming, it's important for them to do it because it's an outlet that they need to do, obviously, in a way of removing any stresses and that's causing them to actually maybe stim. So I've said some stuff about stimming, which I'll again link it in the archive as well as in the description box below me. So on a personal note, carving out a strength-based life where you feel valued and that your work is meaningful can go a long way toward tamping down difficulties with initiating some tasks that you're giving to a child. I can tell you this for sure. My final thoughts here is just like any other child though, however, kids on the autism spectrum want to feel engaged and included, what have you, and to be stimulated by their lessons and activities both at school and at home. Although it can be difficult for some autistic kids to find the motivation to try unfamiliar tasks that are given, incorporating some of these activities that I just said into their daily schedule can be a great way to encourage them to learn and foster essential developmental skills. However, there are huge variations in behaviour and ability along the spectrum, and it is vital that you select the activities within the capability, comfort level and interest of your child for them to be the most effective for them and for you while you're working with. Well, this quickly ends the second part of how teachers and parents can motivate children on the spectrum. Smash the like if you like this. Comment below also and saying that basically before this, if there's any that I had not mentioned about for helping them motivate an autistic child in a way. What do you do as a form of motivation? Do you do any sensory stuff that's similar or what have you? If not, basically what are they and how do they help you? You know, is it similar to what I just said before? It calms you down. It's a form of a thing that you just don't want to zone out for a time and then come back to the task at hand. So without further ado guys, feel free to follow me on my social medias when it comes out. Feel free to share these videos around to your family and friends. And without further ado guys, thanks for support, thanks for watching, do what you love what you do. Until next time, Aspie signing out and I'll see you again soon. Ciao for now.